Hello, planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where at IDK, my BFF Jill730, I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always. You've made your way to the Buffington Post. Alright, so today we'll be continuing my coverage of Season 9 with Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9, Issue number 4. It's Freefall, Part 4. So this season of Buffy's been really crazy. She up and destroyed magic at the end of Season 8.
So that means characters like Willow cannot use magic to get what they want like they used to, and demons can no longer hop back and forth between dimensions, and by demons I mean everybody. There's no way to get to another world from ours. So slayers, vampires, demons, fairies, mystical items have all retained their power, but there's no magic getting in and out of our world anymore. So one of the problems from this has been that vampires are not animated by any kind of demon essence since there's no mystical connection. So the new vampires that are being sired, they're not really vampires at all, not like Reno, they're not like Spike, they're not like Drusilla, not like any vampires we've ever met. They are just zompires. They're physically vampire, but they're brainless. They're not driven by humanity, and they're not driven by a demon essence, so they're just like, and they're super strong, and they have fangs, and they're bad news. So, Buffy got rid of magic, and then she met this other guy, and his name is Severin, because he be-Severin the connection between beings and the mystical energies within them. So, this guy was taking out zompires, and, he found out that all this happened because his girlfriend died and was sired after the destruction of the seed. So, he's been going around, and apparently, he's been looking for Buffy this whole time. He's cornered Buffy, and he led her into a trap. Meanwhile, the police think that she's responsible for all of these dead bodies that have been popping up, because when Severin takes the power out of the zompires, they don't, dust or anything, they just turn into dead human bodies. So, they went to go take out this zompire nest, and he turned on her, and he's gonna
take her power. So, that's what you need to know. Let's jump into Buffy number 4 of Season 9, Freefall, Part 4. Here we go.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look, when you're lost out there and you're all alone, life is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, everywhere you look.
Alright, so the issue picks up 3 months ago when we have Severin, who is trying to track down Alessandra. Now, Alessandra is his girlfriend Claire's friend from high school who sired Claire. So he thinks that Alessandra is responsible for what happened to Claire, and so he takes out this vampire, takes the vampire out of him, and then a voice from the back of the alley says, "Stop looking for a vampire, what you're looking for is a slayer." So this is what happens. We jump into the present, and we see that whoever it was that was talking to him is telling him who Buffy is and what they want to do with Buffy, and basically make Buffy get rid of this idea that she's actually doing good. And so we pick up, and Buffy and Severin are fighting, and he's trying to take her power. And she's basically saying, "Since when did you become the bad guy?" And he said, "I'm not the bad guy. You are. You did this to the world, and I wouldn't have this power if you hadn't sparked this whole new no magic stuff." So he and Buffy are talking back and forth, and he says, "Now that I'm all super charged up, I'm going to take your powers." So meanwhile, at the police station, Dowling and Chung, the detectives who've been looking into this whole no vampire bodies, they get a tip that there's something going down where Buffy and Severin are, and they rush in to go and see what the what is. So at the same time, we've got Spike and Ko, this demon that owes Buffy his life, basically, because her destruction of the seed actually freed him from this crazy magical prison that can no longer be held with magic. So we get Ko and Spike, and they are on this boat. They're talking about the fact that Spike is a vampire and Buffy's a vampire slayer, and Ko thinks it's really weird that Spike is, trying to help Buffy, even though Ko is also a demon. But anyway, so we get this thing, and Spike and Ko are kind of talking back and forth, and basically Spike knows that Buffy is not really looking for love. She's not looking for anything romantic. She can't do anything with her own head. And he's saying, I want Buffy, but what she needs is a normal life, and I'm anything but normal. And so we get this kind of back and forth between Ko about Spike's insecurities and the weirdness of the relationship between Buffy and Spike. So they get to the docks and they realize that the cops are everywhere. There's flashing lights and okay. So Chung and Dowling are outside. They're waiting for a SWAT team to come in, and Dowling says, "Let me go in and see what I can do." And Chung says, "Okay, well, you've got until the SWAT team gets here. Go do what you need to do." Buffy and Severin are fighting, and they can hear the sirens, and she says, "Oh, you hear that? The cops are here." And so the police are looking for Buffy, which Severin knows. He says, "They don't even know that I exist. They don't know anything about me. So after I take your powers, they're just going to find you with all these dead bodies, and you're going to go down." He's trying to take Buffy's power, and she grabs a stake and just stabs him right in the chest. And she's like, "How do you like that Slayer mojo, asshole?" And he just pulls it out willy-nilly, and he says, "Really? I've got so much juice that I could just do this all day." And so she says, "Well, my guess is it takes a lot of mojo for you to heal up from your wounds, so I'm just gonna keep stabbing you, motherfucker." Well, then Severin says, "Yeah, you're right, it is gonna take more juice, so I made sure I wouldn't run out." So then we see that all these vampires are in there with them, and so Buffy's trying to take out vampires to save herself, and he's taking out vampires to get more power so that he can take Buffy's. So on TV, they're talking about this big knockdown, drag out going down at this warehouse where the fugitive, alleged Slayer, Buffy Summers, is. And yeah, Dawn and Xander are seeing this on TV, and they're like, "Oh crap, how much money are we going to need to get Buffy out of jail?" And Dawn says, "Oh crap, I got to call Willow." So then, back at Buffy's apartment, we see Tumble and Anahid, and Tumble is watching TV, and he sees that, all of this, like, our roommate is on TV, what the heck? So Anahid says, "Oh, you don't know the half of it, let's go into Buffy's room and see what I found." So she says, "Look, Buffy's definitely a Slayer, this is crazy." So, Dowling rushes into the warehouse situation, and we see that Buffy and Severin are both having their time with the vampires. So Severin does not actually have to touch the vampires, we find out. Once he's got enough juice in, he can just kind of shoot his magic-sucking power out, and it'll give him the magic. And so Buffy's like, double gulp, and then Severin says, "Hey, I'm a bad motherfucker, I'm gonna get you." So inside the warehouse, but not quite where Buffy and Severin are, we see that Dowling and Spike come across one another, and Dowling's like, "Hey, what's up?" So Spike says, "You really ought not to be pulling that gun out around the Slayer. She really doesn't like guns, and actually, I'm not a big fan either, so why don't we talk?" So Dowling and Ko and Spike all talk, and Ko and Spike go in to save Buffy. So now at this point, Severin actually gets Buffy, and he starts to take her powers, and he says, "Oh wow, that spark's different." And so this is actually going to be really weird later on, but yes, he's trying to take out her Slayer power. So then Spike and Ko bust in. Spike's like, "Why don't you pick on somebody your own size?" But then Severin, he's so juiced up, he just sends Ko and Spike flying, and then he grabs Spike, and he starts to take Spike's powers and Buffy's. So it's not looking great for the Slayer, it's not looking great for her vampire lover, but then, holy shit, somebody shoots up Severin out of nowhere. He's got all these bullet holes in him, and we turn the page, and there's Dowling. He totally shot Severin up. Whatever, they take Severin. He can't heal up from all of his, gunshot wounds real quick. So they take him to the hospital, and then we get Dowling and Buffy talking, and he says, "I'm sorry that I was going after you, but after you get some sleep, I'm really going to need you to come in because I've still got a lot of questions about this whole craziness." And she goes, "Okay, that's fine, and I just have to say, and it may be the only time, but thanks for showing up, guns blazing." So then we get Ko and Spike, and they're talking about the fact that, Spike should go and talk to Buffy and all this good stuff. But again, Spike just wants to give Buffy this normal life, and so he kind of ducks out. So then Willow shows up to take Buffy home, and she's kind of surprised to see her. And Willow explains that, she figured if Buffy was going to lose her powers, she may as well, give her a shoulder to lean on. And Buffy says, "Oh, I figured you might just be coming to say I told you so." And Willow says, I'm not mad at you for destroying the seed. I was mad because you weren't really thinking about all the consequences of everything. And Buffy says, you know what, Will, I get it. I couldn't imagine living without my powers, and we're gonna figure out your whole magic thing. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna work on it together. So then in the hospital, we get Severin, and he's talking to somebody, and this somebody is like, oh, you failed, you suck. And then Severin's like, oh, I'm so weak, I have these bullet wounds, let me touch you. And this person's like, don't you touch me, since you couldn't take Buffy's power, it's gonna take all of my power to kill this bitch. And holy shit, it's Simone. So Simone is back. Simone and Severin have been working together this whole time, and that is the person who sent him after Buffy in the first place. So this is really crazy. I like that Simone and Severin are working together. It's gonna get really crazy toward the end of the season. I like this idea of Spike and Buffy, and the fact that Spike realizes that Buffy's not in any space to kind of open up to him and accept his feelings, let alone reciprocate them. I like that Buffy, when faced with the idea of losing her power, is suddenly very afraid. And this is her wake-up call. She realizes what it is that she's taken away from the world and what it is that she's specifically taken away from Willow. Xander and Dawn don't have a lot to do in this issue, but I love the idea when Xander's looking through his wallet, like how much is it going to take to bail her out of jail. The cops getting involved with the whole vampire situation is also going to be a very interesting turn for the whole of the Buffyverse going forward. The cops are actually going to go after these vampires in the coming issues. Having Ko in the mix, he really didn't do much except for help Spike get to Buffy. But at the same time, it is nice to see that Ko is out there trying to, repay his debt to Buffy. And I have to say, I like this idea that Severin and Simone see Buffy as the bad guy, because, you can kind of look at Simone as the audience being really disappointed in Buffy and kind of using all of season 8 and taking the Slayer power for granted. And while at first in season 8 it looked like Simone was the serious bad guy, and sure, she's still the bad guy because she's after Buffy, the fact of the matter is Simone really was embracing all of her Slayerhood, and Buffy this whole season has kind of been denying it. When Severin showed up, she was like, hey, why don't you take over my job? And so Buffy is not the bad guy, but I like the idea that she can be perceived as the bad guy by people who have been seriously affected by this whole switcheroo that Buffy pulled. Because, I'm sure Simone, a lot of her Slayers abandoned her cause after the destruction of the seed. So all of this is very, very intriguing. And how exactly will Buffy and Willow figure out this whole magic situation? Well, that remains to be seen, but there's a lot to be seen. So stay tuned. Next up, we've got Angel and Faith number 4 of season 9. It's going to be, what is this? Live Through This part 4. So stay tuned for that. You can check out my season 8 coverage and get all caught up. I'm Preston L. Young. Hope you're having a great 2015 so far. Come back to the Buffington Post anytime. I've got Buffyverse discussions on the other Slayers, Angel and Faith reviews, Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews. Buffy season 10 number 19 will be out this Wednesday, so stay tuned for a review for that as well. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you next time.